again, everyone. Today I am here with a very exciting pen that in my mind essentially completes my Pelikan collection. I really don't feel like I need any other models of Pelikan unless, some shiny new Pelikan comes my way, but this one is the M1000. This is just the green stripe version, which is a fairly classic version of the pen. This is obviously, the pinnacle of Pelikan's pens. This is their, what I think they call their flagship pen. It is very large. I will show you the comparison of this compared to some of the other sizes here in a minute, but it is definitely the largest of the Pelikans. So this was one that I wanted to get because I really liked the sizing of the M800 and I did not find it too large. This one I also do not find too large, but it is a little bit, a little less wieldy, so to speak, than the M800. I think the M800 is probably my favorite as far as sizes go, but this has a lovely, lovely nib, which it really, it sets it apart from the other Pelikans. And I think I've said this before with other, so I should also say, so I have this little Birmingham Pen Company paper over here to cover all these little fountain pen notes that I made over here. And I may also test this on this off-white paper as well, which is why I have this here. So what was I saying? Oh, so one of the things that I have mentioned is that one of the really lovely things about Pelikan pens is that depending on the pen that you get, it could be a completely different writing experience. And that spans across the same model even. Like if you get different nib sizes, you might have a different writing experience, but the real big difference is between different models because they seem to have all different nib types for all of their different models. I mean, some of them are very similar. I would say the M600 is probably similar in writing style to the M400, where it's just a tiny bit flexible, but it's probably more on the stiff side. And some of the older or the vintage pens are a little more on the flexy side. I would say that this vintage redo of the iconic blue is a little bit flexy. And I would also say that the M205, and both of these are steel nibs, is also kind of flexy. So this is probably one of the most flexy of the gold nibs, at least that I have tried. So I would like to test this out for you today. So what I'm going to do, so this is obviously my prior testing of all of the other Pelikan pens in my collection. I will put a link below to the videos where I go through all of these pens. I have a collection video, but then I obviously purchased some after that, which is these three, so I will put these three videos as separate links so that you can see them. And then this is going to be what I hope is the last. Also, it's kind of filling up my pen case that I have these in, so it has to be the last. So as you will see, this nib is a monster. And after I do this little writing sample, I am going to do a size comparison between other Pelikans, both with the cap off, so you can see the nib sizing differences, and with cap on, so you can see that. But it's a very, very long nib, and the pen itself is pretty large. I have been writing with this one uncapped or unposted, and it's actually done pretty well. It's pretty nice to write with. I don't find it overly heavy. With the cap on, it actually is also not overly heavy, but it's the little extra weight I feel like is just a little too much for my hand. So I prefer this unposted. And what's kind of interesting is that I feel the weighting of the pen is the same, posted or unposted. Like I don't feel like the cap adds so much weight to the back that it drastically changes the balance, because this is already a little bit back heavy, I think, because of the metal inside the pen. Okay, so let's go ahead here. Let me make sure, yep, we're still running. So this is it hasn't been written with in a little while. So this is the Pelikan M1000. And as you can see, as I'm writing, it does have a very nice flex to it. This is a fine, it's not normally this think it really was, just because it had been sitting fine. Nib. And is this 18 karat? Let's see. Yeah, so this is 18 karat, which I think is also true of the M800. I think those are the only two that are 18 karat. And you can see you can get a lot of line variation here. And I'm really not doing it justice. So, and the ink that I have in here is Birmingham Amber Ale. And it really is a lovely writing experience. You could definitely put a lot of flourish in your writing with this one. I'm not worried about using up the rest of the page here because this is okay. I think I've finally gotten to the point where, you know, we're not going to have a whole bunch of skips anymore. And if I'm writing continuously, it's perfectly fine. So this pen I purchased on Endless Pens as a pre-order because they did not have it in stock. And so I did it as a pre-order and I had a coupon. So I got this for around $300, which is still a lot for a pen. But for this particular pen, I feel like it was worth it, and it was kind of, you know, the last Pelikan that I needed for my collection here. And you'll see with this particular ink, you'll see a little bit of bleed here. That's not unusual with some of the Birmingham inks. And because this gets really, really wet at the largest point of its flex. So, yeah. And it does seem like sometimes, like if you do a lot of flexing one after another, it does have a bit of catch-up time. Like it has to catch up with putting ink back into the feed. Okay, so there's the writing sample. I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you can see just the quality of line with the M1000 there. And as I've zoomed in, you can definitely see the bleeding a little bit with this ink. This is the ink for sure, because this tends to be kind of a wet ink, this Amber Ale. And I actually wonder if a little bit of a drier ink might work better in here. This is just the first and only ink I've tried in here. I like it because it has a lot of variation in the tone. It has a lot of shading. So I kind of like, you know, with thinner pressure with this, you get a lighter line, whereas heavier pressure, you get a darker line. I kind of like that. Okay. Actually, let's go ahead and do some writing on this. Let's see. I'm just doing a really light touch here. Pelikan M1000 with a fine 18K nib with Birmingham Amber Ale. And also I think some of the, not necessarily hard starting, but the feed needing to catch up, because this is a slicker paper. This is Nemesine paper, and this is Tomoe River in 68 GSM, and I'm pretty sure it's the old Tomoe River paper. Although I don't know, you know, what their production schedule is for changing over 68 GSM. I don't know. But as you can see, there's not as much bleed on this paper, and it wrote more smoothly. So that's part of the reason why I wanted to write on a couple of different papers, but it's actually a really great writing experience with this. All right, let me zoom back out, and I'm going to do some pen comparisons here. So put this off to the side there. And I will do my comparisons actually on here. So let's see. So here is the M800. So I'm actually going to do the M800. And then my 600 is elsewhere. Let's see if I can find that. So that's the M400, and then this is the M300. And I'm not going to show you the special editions that are sort of different. See, I have to get out my M600 because it is, oh, whoa, everything's sliding off my desk. Okay. Let me get that wire out of the way too. It's currently in my everyday carry, so that's been working pretty nicely. Okay, so here is capped. Let's make sure they're all lined up here. So this is M300, M400, M600, M800, M1000. And there's actually not a whole lot of difference, you know, because I mean, there's not a whole lot of difference at each step, I would say. But once you kind of add them together, there's quite a lot of difference between, you know, tiny little baby pen and the M1000. And as far as the width of the pen, obviously this one's super skinny. This one is, you know, what I would consider sort of normal width, and this one gets a little bit wider, and then this one is quite a bit wider. And then let's go ahead and take the caps off, and you can see the different nib sizes. Probably should just put these in my nib holder, or my pen holder, huh? I always forget that I have that available. So here is the height difference with the caps off. And you can also see, you know, the size of the nibs. That M1000 is kind of dwarfing all of the other nibs. It's quite large. So I'm going to go ahead and post these and show you what the length difference is between the pens, posting them. And I've pretty much posted them pretty securely. Let's go ahead and turn them so that if I can, might not all line up, but so there you go. I mean, this one is quite long. I mean, you can see with my hand there. This one's quite long posted. But again, you know, the sizing up is pretty consistent. You can even see like where the cap line is pretty consistently stepping up for each of these. But if you don't like large pens, the M1000 is probably not for you. I will see, let's see, what other pens do I have that I can compare these with? Let me cap these up to make sure they don't dry out. And then I will show you. Okay, so off to the side here I have a Visconti Breeze. And then in particular, I wanted to show you a Sailor 1911 large. So this is a Sailor 1911 large. This pen is bigger than all of those. I mean, I will get out my Ranga Model 5, and you'll see that the Ranga Model 5 definitely dwarfs the M800, but you know, this is probably the biggest pen in my collection. I don't have anything like a Mont Blanc 149, which I would assume would probably be similar in size. But I'm also not going to uncap these because the size difference uncapped is not really all that huge. Okay, so this actually, that's kind of interesting. So this is an Opus 88. This is the clear demo, and that's actually a little bit bigger than the M1000. So one big difference though that you'll notice with these, I will uncap these. So this one has my Franklin Christoph music nib on it, but I mean the nib is just a giant on this M1000, and but it's still longer unposted. And I've become fairly used to larger pens like the Opus 88. So it's really just personal preference. I personally like a larger pen. I think one big difference though is that the M1000 is quite a bit heavier than the Opus 88 because this is, you know, pretty much all plastic, whereas this one does have a metal piston. Uh, the M800 also has a metal piston, and they're actually fairly similar in weight. I would actually have to weigh them to know the true difference, but I would say that for whatever reason, you know, this is comfortable to me, but at the same time, this feels a little bit large. You know, it's all personal preference, and it's very hard to pens, especially fountain pens, are very personal to the individual and what is comfortable for you. I think why this one might feel a little big and unwieldy when I'm writing is because the nib is so long. You know, my hand is a little bit further back. I think that might be why it's not as comfortable to me as the M800, whereas, you know, in this one, the nib I feel like is a very comfortable size. And I feel like this is a good distance away from the paper for me to be writing. So I think that's the main difference there. But I think that's all I wanted to show you today. Feel free to subscribe to keep track of future videos on my channel. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like. Like I said, I will post the links to all those other Pelikan videos below so that you can see those. If you have any questions about this particular pen, just let me know and I'll answer when I can. I hope to see you next time, but in the meantime, have a great day. Thanks so much. Bye. Hello again, everyone. So I am tacking this on to my M1000 Pelikan pen video because I felt like the ink that was in it when I did the initial testing and the initial video really didn't do it justice. So I added a different ink to this pen. It's still a Birmingham Pen Company ink, but this is part of their crisp formula, which specifically is designed to have less bleeding. And the ink that I was showing you in this pen before, which was the Amber Ale, was indeed bleeding out from the sides just because this flexible nib does give off a lot of ink. So I am going to test this really quickly for you with this other ink because, like I said, I really wanted to give you a better example of what this pen is capable of. So let me go ahead and zoom in here. So this one is rather large when posted, as I probably already said, but I'm going to keep it that way for now with this mega nib here. Okay, so this is the, see, this started right up, Pelikan M1000. I think that, you know, this is one of the lessons in, if at first you don't succeed with a pen that's supposed to be really, really good, try with a different ink and you probably will find your sweet spot. If you keep trying, sometimes you may have to keep trying. So I was trying to make this fast. Let's see, Pelikan M100, this is the green stripe, and this has a fine nib. And then this ink is Birmingham Pitted Nickel. And this particular ink also, you know, looks better with this pen. I think it matches almost the color of the pen. And this pen really is beautiful. And this is part of the reason why I wanted to show you this again, is you're not going to get that bleed on with every ink in this pen. I'm just going to do the quick brown fox really quickly in cursive. And you get a really good representation here of the variation that's possible with a shading ink in this pen. You could see that as well with the amber ink, the Amber Ale ink, but see, this one is not bleeding. This one is a much better ink for this pen. I didn't experience any hard starts. The other ink was just not right for this pen. And so putting this in there has made the performance, you know, 100% better. I think it is really, really great. You can see a lot of the beautiful shading. You can also see the beautiful variation that you can get with this very flexible nib in the M1000. Okay, so I just wanted to add those few minutes to the end of this video so that you could see a better writing sample and a better example of an ink that goes well with this pen. All right, well, thank you again for joining me, and I hope to see you next time. In the meantime, have a great day. Thanks so much. Bye.